We've been taught to think layoffs are the moment that everything falls apart. You get this random email from HR inviting you to a last minute meeting. And the next thing you know, security is escorting you out of the building. That's what we picture when we think about losing a job, right? But here's what nobody tells you. More often now, the real signal comes before that. And if you're not paying attention, you will miss it completely. I'm talking about those quiet shifts, the role changes that don't quite make sense, the reassignments that feel vague, being suddenly removed from projects you've been leading, and getting taken out of decision rooms that you used to be in. And here's where it gets super tricky. Sometimes these moves are growth opportunities, and sometimes they're neutral, just restructuring, nothing personal. But sometimes they're the quiet nudge toward the exit. And the mistake that most women make isn't what's happening to them. The mistake is how they respond. They respond emotionally instead of strategically. They start working harder, trying to prove their value. They shrink themselves, trying not to make waves. They spiral, questioning everything about their competence. But what if I told you there's a completely different way to handle this moment? A way that doesn't require you to hustle harder, defend yourself louder, or prove anything to anyone. Stay with me because what I'm about to share could save you months of burnout, protect your peace, and put you back in control of a situation that feels like it's controlling you right now. But before I do, allow me to introduce myself. Hey, friend. My name is Quinn, and I'm on a mission to help women in midlife create more freedom, ownership, and opportunity for themselves by turning their existing skills and experience into smart, purpose driven income streams. So, let me start by telling you what happened to me. A few years ago, I landed the role of my dreams. Or was it? I was excited as all get out to get this job. I was going to be leading a team, getting into rooms that I'd never been in, just getting a little bit further up that corporate ladder, just one more rung up that corporate ladder. And then things started to shift. They were small things at first. I got a new manager. The role that I had originally got changed and expanded a few times, and the expectations started to increase. But my team started to shrink. There was more responsibility, but less support. Same title, more work. And at first, I did what so many women do: work harder, show up earlier, stay later, trying to prove that I was indispensable. I thought if I just performed better, things would go back to normal. But they didn't. And I ended up exhausted, anxious, and second guessing everything. Until one day, my husband suggested something that I will forever be grateful to him for. He said, before you burn yourself out trying to fix everything, check the policy. Check the policy. I didn't even know what that meant at first, but those three words changed everything. But what I realized is this: when things start to feel different at work, when your role shifts in ways that feel unclear or uncomfortable, more effort is not always the smartest move. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is simply pause on purpose. And I don't mean to quit, I don't mean give up. I mean step back long enough to assess what's actually happening and what options you have. Because here's the truth that most of us don't even realize: you have more power in these moments than you think, but only if you know where to look. So let's talk about what a strategic pause actually looks like, because I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking, Quinn, I cannot step away. I have bills, I have responsibilities. I cannot afford to take time off. And trust me, I hear you because I said those same things. But a pause does not mean disappearing. It means creating space to think clearly before you make decisions that you can't undo. See, most of us operate from a nervous system that's in fight or flight mode. Something shifts at work, and immediately we're in survival mode: defend, prove, fix, control. But you can't make long term decisions from that place. You just can't. A pause is information gathering. A pause is saying, before I react, let me understand what's actually happening here. Before I assume the worst, let me check the facts. Before I burn myself out trying to change something I might not be able to control, let me see what leverage I actually have. And here's what most women don't realize: taking strategic space does not make you weak. It makes you smart. It gives you time to assess whether this role change is a genuine opportunity for growth, B, a neutral restructuring that doesn't actually affect your trajectory, or C, a signal that this company is preparing to phase you out. And you can't tell the difference when you're in panic mode. So you need clarity, and clarity requires space. So here's where the policy part comes in. When my husband told me to check the policy, what he really meant was this: look at what you're actually entitled to as an employee. Because most of us work for companies for years and never fully understand what benefits we have access to. We know all about our health insurance and our 401k, but do you know about short term disability, medical leave options, mental health days, PTO that you can use strategically? And here's what I've learned: if you are experiencing anxiety, depression, or stress related symptoms because of what's happening at work, you may qualify for short term disability. Let me say that again. If the situation at work is affecting your mental or physical health, you may be able to take protected time off and still get paid. Not everywhere, not in every state, but in many cases, absolutely yes. And I had no idea. I thought short term disability was only for people recovering from surgeries or having babies or things like that. But stress, anxiety, and burnout, those are legitimate medical conditions. And when I checked my company's policy, I realized I had options I didn't even know existed. I could take medical leave. I could use my PTO strategically. I could step back for a few weeks, get my head clear, and assess the situation without my income disappearing. And that changed everything for me because suddenly I wasn't making decisions from desperation. I was making them from a place of information and choice. So here's what I want you to do: pull up your employee handbook. I know it's boring. I know it's dense. Do it anyway. You're going to look for things like short term disability policies, medical leave options, FMLA, which is Family and Medical Leave Act eligibility, mental health resources through your EAP, that's your Employee Assistance Program, PTO policies and payout rules, and severance language. Yeah, because some companies have standard severance terms built into their policies. These benefits aren't favors to you, they're part of your overall compensation. You've earned them by showing up and doing the work. And if you need them right now, use them, because time, strategic, protected time, is the most valuable benefit that you have. And policy can buy it for you. Now, once you've created some space, it's time to get clear. And clarity comes from asking better questions, not questions like, why is this happening to me? What did I do wrong? How do I fix this? These questions keep you stuck in self blame and reaction mode. So instead, you need to ask questions like, is this role change expanding me, or is it sidelining me? What has actually changed about my access, my influence, or decision making power? Am I being prepared for something bigger, or am I being phased out? These are harder questions, but they're the right questions. And you don't have to answer them all by yourself. This is where you bring in trusted people: your spouse or partner, a mentor outside the company, a friend who's been through something similar, or just yourself through journaling, through reflection, through giving yourself permission to think critically about what's happening without judgment. You're not looking for reassurance, you're looking for clarity. And sometimes clarity means accepting that the role that you once loved isn't what it used to be. Sometimes clarity means realizing this company isn't investing in you in the way that you're investing in them. And sometimes clarity means understanding that the shift you're experiencing isn't about your value, it's about their priorities. None of that is easy to sit with, but it's necessary, because once you know what's happening, you can decide what to do about it. Now, I need to pause here and talk about something that makes all of this harder than it actually needs to be, and that is identity. Because here's what happens for so many of us: we tie our sense of worth to our job title. We become our role. And when that role shifts or shrinks or disappears, it doesn't just feel like we lost a job, it feels like we lost ourselves. I talk about this in my book, Monetized in Midlife. Identity has to come before income. If your entire sense of who you are is wrapped up in what you do for a company, every shift in that role is going to feel like a threat. Every reassignment feels like rejection. Every missed meeting feels like you're being erased. But here's the truth: a company can change your role, it cannot erase your value. Your skills are yours, your experience is yours, your expertise is yours. And no restructuring, no reassignment, no organizational shift can take that away. So, if this is your situation right now, listen to me. You are not your title. You are not your role. You are a woman with decades of knowledge, problem solving ability, leadership experience, and wisdom that exists completely independent of whatever's happening in that building. And the sooner you internalize that, the sooner you can start making decisions from a place of power instead of panic. Okay, so let's say that you've taken some time, you've checked the policy, you've asked the hard questions, you've started to separate your identity from your title. Now what? Now you use the window. Because if you've bought yourself some protected time, whether that's through medical leave or just mentally checking out while you're still physically there, you have a rare opportunity. And I don't want you to waste it. So here's what not to do: don't panic, don't overperform trying to win back approval, don't internalize the silence as proof that you're not enough. Here's what to do: audit your skills. What are you actually good at? Not what your job description says. What do you know how to do that people will pay for outside of this company? Next, you're going to explore some income options. What could you offer as a consultant, a coach, a freelancer, or a course creator? Start researching, start testing ideas, start having conversations. Then you're going to build visibility outside the company. Update your LinkedIn profile. Start posting about what you know. Join communities where your expertise is valued. Then you're going to reconnect with your long term vision. What did you want before this job consumed you? What were you building toward before you got stuck in someone else's plan? This is your chance to remember, because here's what I've learned: when the noise quiets, that's often your cue to listen, not to disappear, not to shrink, to simply listen to what you actually want, to what you're actually capable of, to what's calling you forward. And sometimes the thing that felt like a setback was actually the signal that you needed to start building something that's yours. Now, let me be clear about something. Building an exit plan does not mean you have to leave. It means you're choosing to stay or choosing to go from a place of power, not desperation. An exit plan is not an escape plan, it's an options plan. And options create calm. Calm creates better decisions. So, what does an exit ramp look like? It could be content where you start to share what you know online and build an audience around your expertise. It could be consulting, where you package your skills into an offer that you sell directly to businesses or individuals who need what you know. It could look like teaching, where you turn your experience into workshops, courses, or coaching programs, or even digital products where you're creating templates, guides, toolkits, things where people can buy from you without actually needing to use your time. Now, you don't have to do all of these. You just need to do one of them well enough so it gives you options, because the goal isn't to replace your income overnight. The goal is to prove to yourself that you can generate income outside of this one job. And once you prove that, everything changes. You stop operating from fear, you start operating from choice. And when you're operating from choice, you show up differently. You negotiate differently. You decide differently. You live differently. So let me bring this home. I'm not telling you to assume the worst about every role change. I'm not saying every reassignment is a red flag. And I'm certainly not telling you to live in fear or to start planning your exit the second something feels off. What I am saying is this: awareness is not pessimism, preparation is not paranoia, it's maturity, it's wisdom. It's you taking responsibility for your future instead of hoping someone else will. So let me ask you, if your role changed tomorrow, if you got reassigned, downsized, or quietly phased out, would you know what your next move is? Or would you be scrambling? Because if the answer is scrambling, then this conversation is for you. And here's what I want you to do. One, I want you to check your policy today, this week, don't wait. Number two, if you're feeling anxious, burned out, or stuck, talk to someone, a therapist, your doctor, someone who can help you assess whether you qualify for protected leave. Number three is start building, even if it's small, even if it's just one post on LinkedIn, one conversation, one idea you start exploring, because you don't want to have to wait for permission to prepare. You don't have to wait for a crisis to get clear. You can start now, quietly, strategically, on your terms. And if you need help with that, I'm here. Come join me in More Life in Midlife, my free community where we help women just like you turn their experience into income and that uncertainty into options. Or you can book a next move session with me and we'll map out exactly what your exit ramp could look like. I left a link in the description. But whether you work with me or not, please hear me on this. You don't need to panic when things shift. You just need a plan before someone else decides it for you. If this video resonated with you, please like it, share it, and hit that subscribe button. As always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.